So how did I get into the 60-second? Well, I'm going to tell you my story. You see, I was a slave in what they call Boonville, Missouri, and we heard that there was a place in St. Louis, they called it Benton Barracks, and they said if you could run away to get there and you could join the Union Army, that you wouldn't be no slave no more. So I told my mama I was going to try to run to St. Louis, and she prayed for me and she cried all night long, but I got away, and the dogs was chasing me. I was scared, hiding out in the woods, but somehow, by the grace of God, I made it to St. Louis, and I found the Benton Barracks, and I came on in there, and I told them that I was a runaway slave, and they invited me on in and asked me did I want to be a part of the Union Army, and I said, yes, sir, I want to be a part of the Union Army, but they told me that if my master came, and he came looking for me, I had a choice. I could either go back to the plantation with him, or I could stay and fight as a Union soldier. I didn't see master for days on end, and I thought I would be all right. But by the end of the week, he showed up at the Benton Barracks and pointed me out. And then the commanders asked me, they said, do you want to go back with him? Do you want to go back to the plantation with him, or do you want to stay and fight for the Union Army? And I looked at him, and he had just fire in his eyes. I said, no, sir. I want to stay here and fight for my freedom. I want to fight for my mama's freedom and all my little brothers and sisters. I want to fight for the Union Army. So that was about December 1863, and that was one of the coldest winters we ever had. And now, you would think that during that time that they would have given us shoes. They didn't give us no shoes. In fact, hat you see I got wearing on right now, they didn't even give us hats, and most of us kind of froze out there in Benton Barracks and that long cold winter, and they put us right near the latrines where everybody was relieving themselves and all that, and a bunch of us got sick, got so sick, almost died. Wasn't for this woman, I think they call her Mary Meacham. She brought these colored nurses into the barracks because the white nurses didn't want to do nothing for us, and they nursed us back to life. And we heard a scripture all the time, and that scripture is for we have loved the brethren because we've passed from death into life. And them was my brethren. Them was my brother. That was my family then. So we learned how to be soldiers, but we still didn't know how to read. I didn't know how to read and write my name. And then once they found out in Washington, D.C. that we was being mistreated, they sent a man by the name of Richard Foster Baxter, and he came there. And he was what they call an abolitionist, and he was a preacher too. He was a minister. And once they saw that we wasn't getting treated well, he said, make sure you teach these men not only how to shoot a gun, teach them how to read. So we didn't think we ever seen the action. And then one day they told us that, boys, we heading down to New Orleans. So we was fighting, and we got a chance to shoot the guns, and we was fighting old Johnny Reb. But man, it felt so good fighting for the Union Army. And then one day we was down what they call Palmetto Ranch, down towards about 1865, about June 1865, and we was fighting with this all-white troops from Indiana, the 24th, that's what they call them. And we was outnumbered, but we wasn't scared, and we knew we had to retreat. So we retreated, went back to the camp and loaded up, and just as we was gonna go back out to the battle, they said, boys, don't worry about going back to battle. For the war's been over for a couple months. Lee surrendered at Appomattox, but we just now getting the news. And we rejoiced. And so we was on our way back to St. Louis, and all we kept thinking is, what we gonna do now? We ain't slaves no more. Where we gonna work? How we gonna learn? We got some learning. We know how to read, but how about our peoples? So we all got together between the 62nd United States Colored Troops and the 65th United States Colored Troops, and we all put all our monies together. We came up with about $6,400. That's a whole lot of money back in them days. And we gave it to our commander. And he went to the St. Louis Board of Education and asked him, could we start a colored school right here in St. Louis? You know what he told him? He told him, no. They didn't want no colored school here in St. Louis, learning no teachers. They didn't want to teach Negroes how to read. He said, I'll tell you what you can do. You can go up in Jefferson City, maybe they got some land up there, maybe you could start something up there. So we all gathered ourselves together and we went up to Jefferson City, and we didn't know if that was going to be any better or not. And then Colonel Baxter Foster said, got a little cabin we found out in the woods. It's got a bunch of raccoons in it, and the roof is leaking, but we all went there, and then about 3 of us, we all sat there, and he was the first president of what we call Lincoln Institute. And then Lincoln Institute grew from appropriations from the Missouri Assembly, and now I heard years later, they don't call it Lincoln Institute no more. I hear they call it Lincoln University. But you can never forget how Lincoln University got there. It's because of the men of the 62nd and the 65th United States Colored Troops. Don't you ever forget that. Because we was the brethren, for we had passed from death unto life, the brethren.